Rain didn't fall that night. It hunted. It came down in hard, slanted sheets, slamming against the glass walls of the Upper East Side private hospital, turning the Manhattan skyline into a warped, flickering blur of light. Thunder rolled somewhere above the city, distant but heavy, like something approaching. Inside the emergency floor, everything was controlled. Not calm, never calm, but precise. Monitors pulsed in steady rhythms. Nurses moved in intersecting paths that never collided. A resident dictated notes without looking up, his voice low and mechanical. Predictable. Safe. Until the doors opened. Not fast. Not loud. Just enough to let something in. The first thing that changed wasn't the sound. It was the feeling.
The security guard at the entrance straightened. A nurse slowed mid-step. Someone at the desk stopped typing, but didn't know why. Outside, headlights cut through the rain. 3 black SUVs. Engines are still running. Then the doors slid fully open, and the night came inside with them. 6 men. Dark suits, clean lines, no wasted motion. They didn't rush. They didn't speak. They moved like they already owned the space. And between them, a body. A man in his early 30s, barely conscious, was carried like something that couldn't be dropped. Blood trailed behind them. Not drops. A line. Dark. Thick. Continuous. The kind that tells you time is already running out. "Gurney, now!" a nurse snapped, instinct taking over. The ER reacted, but not completely. Something held them back. Not fear. Not yet. Instinct. The kind that says, this isn't normal. This isn't random. This was brought here. The man was lowered onto the gurney, his head lolled to one side, exposing skin already losing color. His chest rose, then stuttered, then struggled again. Pulse, someone asked. Fading. Pressure crashing. And then, he stepped forward. The lead trauma doctor. Mid-40s. Controlled. Surgical in every movement, even outside the OR. The kind of man who didn't panic, because panic killed people. He didn't look at the suits. Didn't acknowledge the tension. He looked at the patient. Always the patient first. "Move," he said calmly. People moved. He cut through the soaked shirt with practiced efficiency. Fabric fell away, sticking briefly to wounds it couldn't hide. And then, he saw it. One entry wound. Then another. Then a third. All precise. All placed. Not chaotic. Not desperate. Clean. Deliberate. His hands didn't stop, but something inside him did. "Get him prepped for—" He paused. Not because he wasn't sure, because now he was. His eyes narrowed slightly as he leaned closer. Angle. Distance. Trajectory. He had seen wounds like this before. Not in accidents. Not in robberies gone wrong. This was controlled violence. Professional. His fingers pressed against the man's neck. The pulse flickered weakly beneath his touch, like a signal about to go dark. He could still save him, but only if he moved now. Only if he chose to. Slowly, he straightened, and for the first time, he looked at the men around him. They weren't worried. They weren't panicking. They were watching, waiting, like the outcome had already been decided somewhere else. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a victim. This was a message. The doctor took a step back. Small. But everything changed. "I'm not taking this case." The words didn't echo. They dropped. Heavy. Wrong. A nurse froze. "Doctor, he's crashing." "I heard you." His voice stayed level, but something in it hardened. He pointed. briefly at the wounds. Close range, controlled grouping. This isn't random. His gaze lifted again to the suits. This is organized. Silence tightened. Even the monitor sounded different now. Louder. Closer. "You bring violence into my hospital," he said slowly. "You take it somewhere else." A beat. Then another. The man on the gurney coughed. A wet, choking sound. Blood touched the corner of his mouth. Time slipped. No one moved. One of the suited men stepped forward. Not fast, not aggressive, but deliberate. The kind of movement that doesn't ask permission. "Doctor," he said quietly, "you don't understand what's at stake." "I understand enough." The doctor stepped forward this time, closing the space instead of giving it. His eyes locked onto the man's. "I don't treat criminals who turn my operating room into a battlefield." The air snapped tight. A nurse stepped back instinctively. Another looked toward the exit, then stopped herself, because leaving didn't feel like an option anymore. The suited man shifted slightly. His jacket moved, just enough to reveal the weight underneath. Not shown, but understood. The room held its breath. And then, stop. One word. Soft. Controlled. Absolute. The effect was immediate. The man stepped back. No hesitation. No protest. Because that voice wasn't a suggestion. It was a line. And everyone in the room felt it. Before they even saw him, they knew he was there. He didn't enter quickly. Didn't need to. Presence arrived before he did. Late 20s, early 30s. Black suit, perfectly fitted. Black glasses, hiding his eyes, but somehow making them feel more present. Untouched by the rain, untouched by the urgency, untouched by everything. He walked forward, and the room adjusted around him. Not consciously, not willingly, but inevitably. He stopped beside the gurney. Still didn't look at the patient. He looked at the doctor, and something invisible locked between them. Control. Not shouted, not forced, measured. "You're letting him die," a nurse whispered under her breath. The doctor didn't look away. "Take him somewhere else." Flat. Final. No. The answer came instantly. Not louder, just heavier. The doctor's jaw tightened. "This is a hospital," he said, "not a shelter for men who choose violence." A pause. The man tilted his head slightly, studying him. Not offended, not angry, interested. Like the doctor had just said, something worth remembering. Behind them, the man on the gurney gasped again, sharper this time. Closer to the edge. Still. No one moved. Because now it wasn't just about the patient. It was about the decision. And who controlled it. The man in black took one step closer, not threatening. Not rushed. Just enough to shift the balance. And when he spoke, his voice didn't rise. It settled. Right where it needed to. "You're making a decision." A pause. Long enough to make everyone lean in, without realizing they had. "You don't understand." The words hung there. Incomplete. Like something bigger was still coming. The doctor didn't blink, didn't respond. But for the first time, something uncertain flickered behind his control. Because whatever this was, it wasn't over. It hadn't even started yet. Rain didn't just hit the glass anymore. It clawed at it. Wind drove it sideways across the Upper East Side skyline, turning every window into a blurred, trembling mirror. Lightning flickered somewhere behind the buildings, and for a split second, the hospital corridors flashed white, then dropped back into sterile, artificial calm. Inside, the change was surgical. Security doors clicked shut one by one, elevators restricted, foot traffic rerouted. No alarms, no announcements, just quiet containment, like something dangerous had been sealed in, and no one wanted to admit it. At the center of it all, a man was dying. The gurney lights cast harsh glow over his pale skin. Blood continued to seep, slower now, but only because there was less left to lose.
"Doctor," a nurse said, softer this time, as if raising her voice might make things worse. "We're losing him." "I know." He still hadn't moved. The doctor stood just beyond the reach of the gurney, hands locked behind his back now. Not folded. Controlled. Contained. Like stepping forward would mean surrendering something he wasn't willing to give up. He kept his eyes away from the patient. Because if he looked long enough, he might stop seeing a criminal and start seeing a man. And that he couldn't afford. Across from him, the man in black hadn't shifted either. But something about him had changed. Not posture. Not expression. Focus. Sharper now. Deeper. He wasn't watching the room anymore. He was watching the doctor break in slow motion. "What's his name?" the boss asked quietly. The question slipped into the silence like it didn't belong there. One of the suited men answered immediately. Ethan Cole. The name hung in the air, unclaimed. The boss gave a slight nod, then looked back at the doctor. "You didn't ask." A small sentence, but it cut deeper than it should have. The doctor's jaw tightened. "I don't need his name." "No," the boss replied, almost thoughtfully. "You needed his category." That landed. Not loudly, but precisely. The doctor took a slow breath. "You bring men like him into my hospital," he said, voice colder now, steadier in a way that felt forced, "and expect me to ignore what they've done?" A flicker crossed his mind, sharp, uninvited. A street washed in police lights, a body on the pavement, too small, too still. His brother. 17. Eyes open, but gone. No warning. No reason. Just caught between people who walked away without consequences. That night didn't just take his brother. It erased his ability to hesitate. Since then, there were only two kinds of people. Those who destroyed lives, and those who tried to save what was left. People like him, the doctor continued, voice tightening just enough to betray something beneath it, don't get to bleed on my floor and call it justice. The storm outside cracked, thunder closer now. For a moment, no one spoke. The machines filled the silence again. The boss didn't argue, didn't defend the man, didn't deny anything. Instead, he asked another question. "How long?" The doctor frowned. "What? How long have you been making decisions like this, without looking closer?" The wording was careful, deliberate, not accusatory, but not neutral either. The doctor didn't answer, because the answer had a face, and a memory, and a night he never left behind. The boss nodded slightly anyway, as if the silence confirmed more than words could. Then, almost invisibly, he shifted his attention. A glance, a signal, nothing more. But one of his men immediately stepped back, phone already in hand. Fast typing, quiet calls, data moving, information being pulled from places most people didn't even know existed. The doctor noticed, and for the first time, unease crept in. Because this wasn't pressure, this wasn't forced. This was something else, something patient, calculated, like the real move hadn't been made yet. On the gurney, the man gasped again, sharper, weaker. "Pressure's crashing," a nurse said, urgency breaking through now. Still, no order came. Seconds stretched longer than they should. Then, a vibration. Subtle, but loud enough in the silence. The suited man stepped forward, leaned in, and whispered something into the boss's ear.
Just a few words. But whatever they were, they mattered. The boss went still, not frozen, focused. Something had just connected. Not fully, but enough. "Interesting," he murmured, almost to himself. The doctor caught it. His eyes sharpened. "If you have something to say it." But the boss didn't respond to that. Instead, he asked, "You have a daughter?" The room didn't react outwardly, but something inside it tightened. The doctor didn't blink, didn't move, but his stillness changed.
"How do you know that?" he asked, voice lower now. The boss didn't answer. 7 years old. Silence. She's upstairs. A shift. Small, but real. The doctor stepped forward. Just once. Instinct. Not anger. Protection. That's enough. But the boss continued anyway. "She's been here longer than anyone expected." A nurse looked down. Another turned slightly away. Because now, this wasn't information. This was something personal. Exposed. "Stop," the doctor said, sharper now. But the boss didn't stop. Liver failure. And that landed. Hard. Because that part wasn't known. Not publicly. Not casually. That was something buried under files, under silence, under long nights the doctor never spoke about. For the first time, his control cracked. Not visible to everyone, but enough. His breathing shifted. His shoulders tightened. And somewhere behind his eyes, fear surfaced. His daughter. Small hands. Weak smile. Waiting. Always waiting. For something no one had been able to give him. A match. A chance. A miracle. And none had come. Not yet. Across from him, the boss had already moved past the revelation. Not emotionally. Logically. His gaze flicked, just briefly, to the man bleeding out. Then back. Pieces aligning. Blood type. Medical profile. Compatibility ranges. Probability windows. Something close to impossible, but not zero. And then, it clicked. Quietly. Almost invisibly. But completely. The kind of realization that doesn't explode, it settles. And once it does,
Nothing looks the same. But he didn't say it. Not yet. Because timing was everything. The doctor straightened again, forcing himself back into control, rebuilding the wall that had almost slipped. "I won't do it," he said. Stronger now. Sharper. Like the words themselves were holding him together. "I won't save someone who's destroyed lives." The machines continued behind him, closer to stopping. The boss studied him. Long. Uninterrupted. Because now, he understood something the doctor didn't. Something that turned this moment into a countdown. A trap the doctor had already stepped into. Without realizing it, the boss took a slow breath. Not frustration, not anger. Certainty. He didn't need to push, didn't need to threaten, because the truth was already here, right in front of them, bleeding out. And when it was finally spoken, it wouldn't just change the decision. It would destroy the line the doctor had spent years building. But not yet. Not until the exact second it mattered most. So he stayed silent, watching, waiting. As the clock ran down on 2 lives instead of 1. The consultation room felt like a sealed box. Low light pooled in the corners, rain smeared the glass into a trembling gray curtain. Somewhere beyond the walls, machines kept people alive. But in here, time didn't move. It waited. The doctor stood at the door, hand resting against the handle, not turning it. He could leave. He could end this. Walk back into the ER, let protocol decide, let distance protect him. He had done it before, chosen the line, held it, survived it. But tonight, something wouldn't let him move. "You don't get to use my family," he said quietly, not looking back. "Whatever this is, it stays away from them." Silence answered. Not empty. Measured. Footsteps followed. Slow. Controlled. The man in black didn't rush to fill the space. He let it stretch. Let the doctor stand at the edge of a decision he didn't realize he'd already made. Then, if he dies. A pause. Just long enough to tighten every nerve in the room. So does your daughter. No echo. No rise in volume. Just weight. The kind that sinks straight through the chest. The doctor didn't turn immediately. His fingers tightened on the handle. A fraction. Barely visible. What did you just say? Low. Even. But something under it had sharpened. The man in black didn't repeat himself. He shifted slightly, angling his body, not to block the exit, but to remove it from the doctor's focus.
Ethan Cole, he said. The name landed differently now. It wasn't a label anymore. It was a key. He's a match. The doctor turned. Slow, like the movement itself might confirm something he wasn't ready to face. That's not possible. The words came fast. Automatic. Not a partial, not a maybe, a full match. Stop, the doctor cut in, sharper now. We ran every registry, every network. There's no donor. There hasn't been in your system. The interruption was quiet, precise. And outside it, a beat. We don't wait for permission. The implication slid into the room and stayed there. The doctor stared at him, searching for the crack, for the lie, for anything he could dismantle.
"This is manipulation," he said. "You walk in here with a dying man and, what, fabricate a miracle?" No reaction. No defense. Only a small gesture. Toward the desk. A tablet. On. Open. It hadn't been there a moment ago. Now it was the only thing in the room that felt alive. "Check," the man in black said. The word wasn't a command. It was an invitation. The doctor didn't move. Then his eyes betrayed him. They dropped. Once. That was enough. He crossed the room before he realized he'd decided to. The screen lit his face. Cold. Clinical. Unforgiving. Blood type. Markers. Sequences. Compatibility index. He scanned fast. Then slower. Then again. Searching for an error. A mismatch. A corrupted field. Anything that would give him back control. There was none. The numbers aligned. Clean. Exact. Impossible. No. The sound left him without permission. His fingers moved, pulling deeper records, cross-referencing, rerunning calculations he already knew the outcome of. Each pass returned the same answer. The kind that doesn't change. Because it's true. "You're lying," he said, but the certainty had drained out of the words. "You're out of time," the man in black replied. Softer. Closer. The doctor's eyes flicked to the corner of the screen. Timestamps, vitals, projected window. Closing. Faster than he wanted to admit.
Even if this is real, he pushed back, voice catching before he smoothed it. We'd need stability, consent, surgical prep. There are protocols. Hours, the man in black said. A beat. Not days. The room tilted. Or maybe his balance did. Because the equation had changed without asking him. Save him or lose her. Let him die and lose her. No third option. No delay. No distance. I won't do it, he said suddenly. Too fast, too hard, like if he didn't plant the words now, they'd never take root. I won't save someone like him just so... The door opened. Soft. Wrong. A nurse stood there, breath caught halfway between apology and fear. I'm sorry, doctor. She insisted. And then she stepped in. Small, barefoot, a hospital gown that swallowed her shoulders. The IV line trailed behind like a fragile thread that might snap if pulled too tight. 7 years old. But tonight, she looked lighter, as if something had been quietly taken from her. Daddy? The word barely crossed the room, but it found him. Exactly. Everything inside him folded. He crossed the distance in 2 strides and dropped to one knee, hands already reaching for her. Gentle, careful, like she might bruise from pressure alone. What are you doing out of bed? He asked, voice breaking into something softer, something he never let anyone hear. She didn't answer that. Her eyes stayed on his face, searching. Are you coming back? A simple question, but it wasn't about the room or the hallway. It was about him, about whether he would still be there when she needed him. His hand rose to her hair, brushing it back. I'm right here, he said. But the words felt thin, insufficient, because he knew what she didn't. Daddy, am I getting better? The room went still. No one breathed. The question hung there, too small for the weight it carried. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Behind him, the man in black didn't move. Didn't interrupt. He didn't need to. The truth was already speaking. The doctor closed his eyes for a fraction of a second. In that moment, he saw the line he'd drawn years ago. Clear. Unbreakable. And then he saw what it cost. He stood slowly, still holding her hand. Turned. The man in black met his gaze. Not as an opponent, as a fact. What do you want? The doctor asked. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't defiance. It was something closer to surrender, but not quite. The man in black stepped forward, measured, controlled, close enough that the distance between them stopped mattering. You don't have to forgive him, he said. A pause, letting it settle where it hurts. Just keep him alive, long enough to save her. The words didn't push. They anchored. And suddenly, everything the doctor believed, every rule, every boundary, every certainty, felt negotiable. Because now, the decision had a heartbeat, a voice, a pair of eyes looking up at him, waiting. The room didn't move, but something inside him did. And for the first time, he understood the trap. There was no clean choice, only a cost. And whichever way he turned, he would have to pay it. Morning didn't arrive. It crept in, quietly, like it didn't want to disturb what the night had broken. The storm had thinned into mist. Rain clung to the glass in trembling lines, slowly sliding down as if the city itself was exhaling. Inside the hospital, everything felt different. Not safe, not normal, just paused, like the building was waiting to see what the doctor would do next. He stood outside the operating room, alone, Same place he had stood hundreds of times before. Same doors, same sterile light. But this time, his reflection in the glass didn't look like him. Behind those doors, the man was still alive. Barely. Machines were doing the work his body couldn't. A criminal. A threat.
A man he had already decided didn't deserve saving. And yet, he was still here. Because of one truth the doctor couldn't unsee anymore. If that man died, his daughter would follow. The thought didn't hit all at once. It pressed in slowly, relentlessly, until it became the only thing he could hear. Footsteps approached. A nurse stopped just behind him, waiting, careful not to speak too soon, because she could feel it too. This wasn't a medical decision anymore. This was something else, something heavier. The doctor closed his eyes, just for a second. And in that second, everything collided. The night his brother died, the promise he made, the line he never crossed. And then, his daughter's voice. "Daddy, are you coming back?" His eyes opened. Different now. Not softer, not weaker, but clearer. He stepped forward. The doors slid open. The room turned toward him, waiting. Just one command. That was all it would take to change everything. His voice didn't shake. Prep him for surgery. For half a second, no one moved. Then, everything exploded into motion. Gloves snapped, metal clinked, machines recalibrated. The rhythm of controlled chaos filled the room. But underneath it, something deeper pulsed. Because everyone in that room knew this wasn't just about saving a life. This was about choosing which life mattered more and refusing to accept that only one could survive. The surgery began, and time stopped making sense. Every second stretched. Every movement carried weight. The doctor worked with surgical precision, but his mind wasn't where it usually was. Not detached. Not distant. For the first time, he felt every decision. Every incision wasn't just technical. It was personal. Because on another floor, his daughter was waiting. Connected to this table by something invisible and unbreakable. Pressure dropping. Stabilize. Clamp. Short commands. Sharp movements. No hesitation. But inside, he could feel it slipping. One mistake. One delay. And everything would collapse. Across the hospital, another room was ready. Quiet. Cold. Prepared. Waiting for a life that might never make it there. 2 rooms. 2 fights. 1 clock. Outside the operating wing, he was still there, the man in black, exactly where he had been all night, standing, watching, not pacing, not speaking, not interfering, which made it worse, because men like him didn't wait without a reason. He wasn't hoping, he was expecting. And somehow, that certainty was more intimidating than any threat. A nurse walked past him, glancing nervously at the closed doors. "Will he make it?" she whispered. The man didn't look at her, didn't blink. He has to. Not hope, not belief. A statement. Final. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. No one could tell anymore. Then, the doors opened. The sound alone made the entire hallway freeze. A nurse stepped out first, eyes scanning, breath tight. Behind her, the doctor. His mask lowered,
face pale, but standing. That was the first sign. If it had failed, he wouldn't be standing like that. No one spoke, because no one wanted to break the moment. Then, it worked. Barely above a whisper, but it hit like thunder. Stabilization is holding, he added, voice steadier now. We moved to transplant. Relief didn't come. Not yet, because the real battle was just beginning. Time folded again, and when it unfolded, the sun had taken over the sky. Warm light poured into the recovery wing. Soft, gentle, like it didn't belong in the same world as what had just happened.
Inside a quiet room, a small figure lay still, but not fading anymore. Breathing. Steady. Alive. Color was returning slowly to her face. Machines no longer fighting. Just supporting. The doctor stood beside her, not moving, afraid that if he did, this might disappear. His hand hovered over hers, then finally rested gently against it. Real. Warm. Still here. The door opened behind him. Soft. He didn't turn. He didn't need to. You came to collect? He asked quietly. No anger. No gratitude. Just truth. Then, I didn't save him. The doctor's eyes shifted slightly. The man in black stood near the window, sunlight cutting across his silhouette. Calm. Untouched. I saved what matters to you. Silence followed. Heavy. Because now, the doctor understood. This was never about the patient, never about power and the way he had imagined. This was something else entirely. Something far more precise, far more dangerous. The ability to see exactly where someone breaks and choose not to. The doctor looked back at his daughter, then at the man. And for the first time, he didn't see a villain. He saw a man who operated by a different kind of code. Not clean, not moral, but intentional. Outside, engines started. Black SUVs lined the street, sharp under the morning light. The storm was gone, like it had never existed. The man adjusted his cuffs, turned, walked toward the door. No goodbye, no acknowledgement, just certainty. And when he stepped into the sunlight, it felt like something had shifted with him. Inside the room, the doctor remained, watching his daughter breathe, listening to the quiet rhythm of life he almost lost. And slowly, something settled inside him, a realization he couldn't ignore anymore. Power isn't always about control. It isn't always about being right. Sometimes it's about knowing exactly what someone cannot afford to lose and what they're willing to sacrifice to protect it. If you were in his place, would you have made the same choice? Or would you have let the line stay unbroken no matter the cost? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, where power, emotion, and impossible choices collide, make sure you subscribe, because the next one might hit even harder.